My blueberries have been stuck for years. No flowers, no growth, no nothing. So I'm pulling them out and trying something completely different to see if I can finally turn them around, because I'm trying to grow 650 pounds of food from this yard, and blueberries are supposed to be a part of that. I decided it was time to do a soil pH test, because the pH of your soil is probably the most important thing to get right when trying to grow blueberries. If I don't have acidic soil, I might need to do something else with the blueberries. And it's not looking like the soil is very acidic at the moment. Nope, very alkaline. So that's unfortunate for the berry bed. That means something needs to change with the blueberries. So I tested my soil, and yeah, it's worst case scenario for blueberries. We're going to move the blueberries to pots so I can better control the soil. I'm mixing up a potting mix recipe I got from Growing Out the Box here on YouTube, because that man knows how to grow some beautiful blueberry plants, and fast, which after having these sad plants for 3+ years, I'd love to see some fast, strong growth this season. The recipe is 50% peat moss, 25% compost, and 25% pine bark nuggets. The peat moss will give us the low pH we need, the compost helps with nutrition, and the pine bark nuggets help with drainage. If this mix isn't acidic enough, this whole thing falls apart. To confirm that this mix is within the appropriate pH range for blueberries, I'll run a pH test. I collect a sample, filling the test tube to the first line, then I empty the green capsule into the testing tube and fill the tube to the fourth line with distilled water. Distilled water is important because it is pure and pH neutral. Giving it a good shake and then letting the soil settle before comparing it to the chart, and yes! We are in the acidic to very acidic range, perfect for blueberries. Now that we have their ideal growing medium prepared, it's time to remove them from their failing spots. When digging them up, I'm trying to get as much as the root ball as possible, because that'll mitigate how much transplant shock they'll go through once moved into the pots. But I'm also trying to remove as much of my native soil as possible, since clearly they don't like it. That's not a great root system, and after 3 years of growth, I would have expected a much bigger one. Interestingly, this is the only one of the 3 blueberries that I had any trouble just popping right out of the soil. This seems to be the only one that was rooted in, and it's the shortest one of the bunch. The first real change I'm making is completely new soil. I'm filling some 7-gallon fabric pots I had laying around with that fresh new soil. 7 gallons is way too small to keep blueberries happy long term, and I know that. But before I went and spent the money on the large 20-gallon pots they need for their mature sizes, I wanted to see if they would put on any new growth with the change in soil. If they seem happier and healthier over this summer, I'll pot them up into proper containers in the fall. I'm not worried that 7 gallons is too small for one growing season, but you certainly wouldn't want to leave them in this size pot long term. At this point, I'm just really hoping it is the soil that's the issue, because otherwise this might not fix anything. This blueberry had me a little worried that it had died. It had the smallest root ball of the set, and some of its branches looked very brown. When I cut into the branch, it was completely brown. There was no green live tissue, so it wasn't looking good. But as I checked the other branches, there was just a little bit of green tissue, so I decided it was worth potting up to see if it would break dormancy. Fingers crossed. When I get the blueberries planted, I make sure that just the roots are buried and not the stem. Burying any part of the stems could lead the stems to rot. I'm not doing all of this work just to have the plants rot on me. When I'm finished, I'm topping them with a nice layer of pine bark to help hold moisture. Because with fabric pots, if I'm not on top of the watering, these could dry out pretty quickly. The one thing I really like about the pots already is how much control I have. I have control over the soil, I have control over the drainage, I even have control about where in the yard they're placed. And honestly, after 3 years of struggling, that's the kind of flexibility I need right now. So at this point, everything has been changed. But the real question is, will it work? To help the blueberries root into their new home, I'm watering them in with a high phosphorus fertilizer. Phosphorus is one of the main nutrients plants need for root and flower development. I'll be picking off any flowers these plants do put on, so they can focus on growing strong roots. But I would be shocked if they put any flowers out this year. I need to make sure I'm diligent about watering because these fabric pots will dry out much faster than in-ground gardens. And if I'm not on top of giving these berries the water they need, moving them into better soil won't make a difference. This is the real test. Let's see how much they actually grow from here. To track how much these blueberries grow in their new and improved home, I'm going to measure their current height, and then in September, measure it again to see how much growth they were able to put on this season. This one is about 17 inches tall. Next, checking for life because this plant has me nervous. Branches are flexible, which is a great sign. It is the tallest plant of my bunch, sitting around 20 inches tall. And the plant with the biggest root ball is the shortest in size, around 16 inches tall. If this works, they might finally start contributing to my 650-pound goal. But if they don't, I might need to start rethinking blueberries entirely. In the next one, we'll tackle protecting the strawberries from the squirrels.